we're moving now on to the, let's say, last content-wise part of the session. So I'm inviting on stage actually all 6 of colleagues that are gonna join me on stage here. We're moving into a, let's say, more relaxed, because it's a Friday afternoon discussion. We do have some prepared questions, but it's going to be in a more informal, relaxed manner. So I will not spend too much time introducing, because that's going to be the first round. So please, everybody, do come on stage. Mr. Boštjan Jambrović, Ms. Asja Kavrakova, Mr. Paul Hofheinz, we already see him, Ms. Natalia Aristimuño Perez, Mr. Nick Thies, we already see him, and Mr. Ernest Jain. Ernest, I believe you're also here with us, yeah. With Boštjan, I believe we also need to invite him to start video. Yeah, here you are, and also the unmute part. So we're all set. So as I said, intentionally, I didn't go into the introduction part, because we will go, one by one. A short introduction from your side, so yourself, your role, the organization you represent, and then also a brief intro comment just to break the ice, on the topic of today's conference, which we are sort of ending now. So the human-centric digital transformation of public sector. So we will start the way you are on the setup on the agenda. So we will start with Boštjan Jambrović first.
Dear participants, dear friends, my name is Boštjan Jambrović, and I was recently appointed State Secretary at the Ministry of Public Administration. Before my appointment, I was for many years working in the private sector and was very much involved in international trade, process optimization, and human resources management. Also with a strong focus on environmental issues and digital transformation in production companies. Our Ministry of Public Administration and our country, Slovenia, have a long tradition in different aspects of digital transforming the processes and interacting with citizens and companies. All that was very well presented today in the session 5B on user-centered design. We are building on this tradition. We will accelerate the process of digital transformation also by using the recommendations from the newly published OECD Digital Government Review of Slovenia and RRF funds, as well as by cooperating with our new formed Government Office for Digital Transformation. It is an honor for me to contribute to this conference with such a variety of speakers and participants, both from the EU countries and beyond, with stakeholders from public administration, NGOs, the private sector, and academia. The last panel discussion perfectly shows how a wide range of stakeholders needs to be involved in the digital transformation of the public sector in order to bring value to all stakeholders, especially to our end users, the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boštjan Jambrović, for these introductory words. We're moving next to Asja Kavrakova, so please.
Good evening from my side. My name is Asja Kavrakova. I'm the Director of the European Citizen Action Service, ECAS, in short. We are an European association, not-for-profit organization based in Brussels with 30 years of history. Our mission is to empower citizens to exercise their rights as European citizens, and we do that through a variety of means. One of which is exploring the potential of new technology in order to foster democracy and to improve the participation of citizens in the European decision-making process. So from that perspective, of course, first it was very, very interesting what we have encountered today, really. A very rich debate, very, very rich debate with very distinguished speakers. So I'm very much impressed. As a citizen-centric organization, of course, we very much welcome the approach of a human-centered technology and processes. And we ourselves are going to undertake a couple of experiments in the upcoming months, like for for example, as of January next year, we are going to crowdsource with citizens in 10 different member states their opinions and proposals for solutions on the subject of air quality. This crowdsourcing experiment is something which, at least at this scale, as far as we are concerned, will happen for the first time. We have put quite a substantial effort this year in order to develop with academics an assessment methodology, because we would like to carry out this experiment, but also to be able to assess it once it's over, in order to understand whether it has worked or not, what are the success factors, and also maybe the barriers, so that we can learn from them. The idea being that we would like to see if such kind of a endeavor can become part of the democracy toolbox at EU level for engaging citizens on a more permanent level in the European decision-making process. And of course, we have been quite a lot inspired by this Icelandic example, because maybe you know that as we are speaking now, the Iceland is crowdsourcing with its citizens their constitution as part of a 5-year process, very well structured, involving all the stakeholders. So, of course, having said that, some of the questions that have been raised today as representativeness, to what extent all of those exercises are representative, are very, very interesting for us. And I can tell you that, of course, before going to this step of deciding to launch this crowdsourcing exercise Europe-wide, we have studied about 27 examples of crowdsourcing legislation worldwide. And we have came to the conclusion that, yes, this method has a potential to ensure a learning curve, especially if it takes place in a real time, citizens and decision makers. It also has the potential to increase the legitimacy of the decisions taken, to bring new ideas, the so-called wisdom of the crowd to the table. But there are no evidence that it ensures representativeness. So this is also the reason why it's an absolute must to very much, and I think I heard it from one of the previous speakers, use all of those instruments and democratic innovations focused on purpose. First and second, combine online and offline activities, because the digital divide is a fact. And there are very many different measures that could be put forward in order to overcome it, but we are not there yet. And we need to make sure that all the democratic processes, no matter whether online or offline, as a puzzle and an overall impact and effect, are inclusive. I will stop here. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to continue a bit later.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. A nice, elaborate opening here. Thank you, Asja. Moving on, Mr. Paul Hofheinz from the Lisbon Council.
Well, thank you, Mate. First of all, you just introduced me. I am Paul Hofheinz from the Lisbon Council. We are a think tank based in Brussels. Despite our name, we're named for the very famous Lisbon Agenda some years ago to make Europe the most competitive and dynamic knowledge-based economy in the world by 2010. We obviously missed that, but it remains the mission statement of my organization, even if the deadline has been pushed back a little bit. Look, I have quite a few things to say about human-centric digital government, and I'll maybe wait until the conversation begins, partly because this has been such a long and rich one, and it's going to be very difficult to say anything that's new, but we can perhaps bring some themes together and pull some ideas out that might help to make sense of a conversation that's wide-ranging and rich. But the one thing I did want to do before I pass the floor back is to congratulate you, Mate, and the Slovenian government for this marathon conference. And not only you, but all of the, I believe, around 100 people still remaining in the audience now. You are all heroes of digital government. And the sign that you are still here, going all the way back to Boštjan Koritnik's opening remarks at 9 a.m. this morning, makes you real champions in this movement. It's a sign of your interest, your passion, and commitment. And with people like that, there's no end to what we can accomplish. I'll wait to say more on the dossier in the next round.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for these encouraging words. Moving on, Ms. Natalia Aristimuño Perez, please.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, first of all, same thing. Thank you very much for the organization. I'm Natalia Aristimuño. I'm director of the digital services in the European Commission. And Well, I think that the conference of today is a sign that we are moving forward. We have been talking about digital government for quite a long time, but it was not moving fast enough, and we have seen today how things are moving. I think that the crisis has brought some changes, and some changes also in the investment priorities. And I would like, this has also been mentioned, but I would like to highlight the important amount of money that is being put forward through InvestEU, the Recovery and Resilience Fund, to the public sector transformation. So we have heard about these investments all throughout Europe, but there are 20 billion that are earmarked for the public sector transformation. So I think this is a real big signal. Now, I would like to just very shortly indicate that if we want to have this digital human-centered governance, we have basically two options. Either we go on, each one on its corner, reinventing the wheel and not learning from each other, or we do it together. Cooperation, co-creation. I have heard this work many times today, but I think this is really, really important. Going beyond Europe, and we have some examples here. There has been also a panel with the Western Balkans. We have a representative here. So I think that really it is really important that we develop together. This conference has shown the importance of sharing, of getting knowledge from each other. And this to get to innovation, because sometimes it's a kind of, we had the idea that innovation of public sector are kind of a contradiction, but we are getting there. And I think that building partnerships is key to foster even more the innovation in the public sector. So really, I think all what has been said is getting to use the technologies for the citizens, helping them to shape the public services and not the other way around. And I will stop here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Natalia. And as you already mentioned, we have Nick Thies with us also from OECD Sigma. He was present. Many of you know we were doing a trio of events Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He was already present yesterday, the CEO meeting, and also today in a session. So using you once more. So Nick Thies, please.
Thank you, Matej. Thank you so much. Indeed, it has been quite busy days, but all rewarding. And let me first extend the big word of thanks and congratulations to the Slovenian presidency. Great job, really great job. Also to Digit being involved in all these meetings. I think it's great to work on these things in common. And I think this is also where I and where we come in as OECD Sigma. For those among you who don't know the OECD Sigma, well, Sigma is a joint program funded by the European Commission and hosted by the OECD. What we do is that we work in strengthening governance and promoting good governance in 3 geographical regions. And one is what we call the IPA region. So this is the Western Balkans and Turkey. Then we have the MENA region, so North Africa region and part of Middle East. And then we also have the East region from Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Moldova, Armenia, Georgia. But as already said, I mean, in this capacity, I was trying to bring in the Western Balkan region and countries into this event. And I think we succeeded, and I know the countries are really grateful for this. I hope to come back to this a little bit later in this panel. But just as some takeaways from my side, as to kick off also in this panel, what I found really astonishing today is that although it's a conference about e-government, that it's not about technicalities at all, right? It's, well, probably even the technical side of things even have been quite below the radar. Not saying it's not important, but I think we moved into a stage, all of us together in all the countries and in the organizations, public administration, where, I mean, we had this, the basics are there, and now it's about this, translating this into mindsets, translating this into user centricity, really translating this into the focus is not about digitizing whatever. No, it's about redesigning, rethinking on the basis of user needs, citizens' needs, expectations, and then really making it not digital by default, but really digital by design, really making it useful in what we're doing. And so this is for me key throughout the whole conference, and I think a really important stage, and I would say a kind of an indication of the stage maturity where we are, that we can discuss and share about this level of things and not about, I would call it the basics, and we passed that stage. Really interesting to see. So that's it for from my part at this stage, but happy to come back in later with more details what we discussed and seen. Thank you.
We will do. Thank you very much, Nick. The last but not least, Ernest Jane from Slovenia, from the company economy side of you. So he's on one side definitely a user, but then again also one who's contributing to the story as well. So Ernest, please.
Thank you, Matej. Welcome everybody. Hi from my side. I'm a representative of the industry. I'm a board member of ICT Association and many other associations. Basically, I'm also entrepreneur and investor in so many IT companies across the world. Unfortunately, I'm not as positive as Paul, but I will build on top of Nick's ideas. Well, actually, I will start with the digital agenda and then move to human-centric. It was one of the saddest days in my life when I read it. Why? When I got my eyes on digital agenda of European Union, I really saw that we really lack vision. We lack visionaries. I mean, I started to ask myself, why am I living in European Union at all? I mean, of course, because of quality of life, right? Everybody answers this. We are living in European Union because of the quality of life. And nobody wants to have digital. I mean, why would I want to have PDF instead of paper? Nobody needs PDF instead of paper. What we do need is automation. We need less PDF or less paper, regardless. But we should be communicating more about the end goals rather than the path to get there. Of course, if we are all Zen and discussing the path, of course, it's important, the path, etc., etc. But when we are discussing the end goals, like in digital agenda, like, why are we not talking about automation? We want less work, not more work. So we have failed so many times because we implemented different solutions just to find out that with digital solutions, we have more work. So we are going against the wind. So what is important from my side is that we should talk about automation. Digital is great. I mean, digital is the empowerment of automation. It definitely is. But we should see it as a path, not the end goal. And this is something we should constantly remind ourselves. And human-centric is definitely, there is no other centric than human-centric, right? We are people. And whatever we do, we have to do it for ourselves to have a better quality of life. So I can't even imagine any kind of other centric than human-centric, because digital should be in the, and is in the first name for human people. And that's my starting point. Definitely, I have so many things a bit later, but I will not waste my time.
Sure. Thank you for this intro round. Timing wise, you know, we want to end up at about 5:20 or so to conclude the conference. Now we still have quite a number of attendees here with us, and obviously we on stage are here because of them and those who will watch the recording also. But what I would like is, if there are any questions, any comments from the audience, just raise the hand. We will try to include you as we go into the second round of the questions. I see Patricia Mastin already giving us some nice words into the chat, so we read that. And let's go into the second round as we prepare the questions, and then throughout take maybe some from the audience. So coming back to Boštjan, in your introduction, you mentioned the new OECD review, so and your projects and strategies. Now tell us, which of your projects and plans would you like to highlight to the audience, to us here, as the most promising ones?
So, dear Matej, thank you for your question. First, I would like to highlight our new identity card coming early next year with the new eID and mobile eID solution. We believe this can be a game changer, since our users often complained that the digital certificates were not user-friendly. Therefore, we hope that new mobile solution will have a significant uptake among the population. We have to persuade our citizens that the more they use digital channels, the cheaper it gets for them and for the service providers. Next, we plan to encourage and support the co-creation of public services with coordination, training, coaching, guiding, and supporting. Also important is unifying the user's experience in digital services and providing the mobile channel. Of course, the ECT infrastructure should be in place as the basis that should work so reliably and securely that users, service providers, and of course, like you mentioned, end users do not even have to think about it. However, this reliability and security also comes at a cost, both in financial and human resources. The ECT infrastructure provides the basis for us to be able to develop good and user-friendly services. On my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Question for Asya. So we're talking a lot about technology and so on. Now, question for you: can technology actually improve the quality of our democracy? If yes, what are the ingredients of success? Are there any potential pitfalls?
Thank you very much. This is a favorite question of mine, because just to follow up of the previous speaker, when I first read the digital strategy of the European Union, I was also disappointed, because I thought, okay, there is no enough digital democracy there. There is quite a lot about digital services and e-governance, but not enough for democracy. However, since then, things have changed, they have evolved, and now also we have the European Democracy Action Plan, which is quite good, and there are certain aspects which are important. So my answer, if I have to answer with just a very short sentence, yes or no, I would say yes, under certain circumstances, of course, because digital tools are just tools, so they can provide access, additional access to certain groups, especially, for example, young people, especially if decision makers go where they naturally are in the digital space, instead of waiting the other way around to happen, like the young people to go to them and to practice democracy as traditionally practiced. So there is a potential for engaging youth, also for soliciting innovative ideas, especially, for example, at the stage of elaborating ideas for proposals and solutions. So again, depending on what is the purpose and where in the policy cycle tools are used, there is a potential to improve democracy, but there are certain standards, democratic standards, that are very old, very ancient, and still are very important. Like, for example, no matter whether you consult citizens offline or online, they need to have knowledge in advance about the issues so that they can take informed decisions. If not, we have seen enough of basically shortcomings coming out of citizens who are asked to provide opinion without being informed in a proper way. So this is a must. The process, no matter again whether it happens online or offline, needs to be a credible process. And in the end, as we all know, the impact is also very, very, very important. The impact in the sense that it's not true that citizens necessarily expect everything that they recommend to be taken on board, but there is an obvious need for a regular and quite sophisticated feedback in terms of telling citizens what you have taken on board or not, and if yes, if not, why not. So those are all rules which are not new, but they are equally important as they are also for the offline consultations and activities. So I would say that those are the very important ingredients. And then again, at least at this point, I want to reinforce that offline and online needs to go hand in hand. We also see those efforts now as part of the Conference on the Future of Europe. And although, of course, I mean, we wish that it was a longer exercise, maybe actually it would be a longer exercise, that we also have some recommendations about how it's carried out. But at the end of the day, this is a great innovation at European level and a great learning process. And we are very, very happy that this is taking place with the online collaborative platform, and then also with the citizens panels, part of which take place online, which is the only way to go in this situation. It's true, but it's also a great learning process. So the question there would be, how do we assess the knowledge that will generate out of this process, and what we'll do with it in order to make it a more permanent exercise. And here I just want to just add one more sentence. We as civil society organizations working at European level have gathered together 88 European networks and have launched a parallel exercise to the Conference of the Future of Europe, which is a convention on the Conference of the Future of Europe. So we are soliciting the opinion and input of the organized civil society across Europe on the same political priorities on which the Conference on the Future of Europe is taking place. And we as ICAS, we are in charge of the consultations on the digital transformation, or Europe in the digital age. So now we are at the stage when we have identified the problems, gathered the solutions from civil society organizations. The next phase will be the voting phase, which of the solutions will be preferred by the majority. But today I just went through some of the recommendations just to be inspired for this conference, which is inspiring in itself, but still. So I just want to mention one of them, which I was impressed to read, which is to establish a European digital university. And today, listening to all the interventions and the huge amount of knowledge and also lessons learned, I was thinking, okay, so this could be the kickoff, maybe, of such an European university. Maybe we can really work together in order to put something in a more systematic way, because I really do believe that the only way to foresee a bit the future and to be there a step before it takes place and not always to follow it would be to basically put together our collective intelligence and to learn from each other and to just to move forward together, because otherwise technology is faster than us.
All right, thank you very much, Asya. Interesting ideas popping up at the very end of the conference. One thing that I took from your part now is, offline and online hand in hand for a while until we stop missing one of them. We know which one. Or connecting the dots with a nice, maybe stop missing both of them because we don't need them because they're already automated, just going really farther. So I would encourage all of you to maybe look at the chat. There's a comment by Theo Anderson, really nice to read. That was worth the wait. I mean, it was going toward Ernest, but then again, also the whole panel. So addressing Theo here, if you want to just type in the chat, we can also include you when we get to Ernest back. I can give you the mic and then you can comment directly in it. But going back to Paul, so going deeper into today's topic, maybe somebody will say just repackaging, but still, the conference has been about human centricity, obviously, but it isn't entirely clear what that means, yeah? So what is a human-centric digital service? Do governments yet have a definition broad enough to include better government services or not just safer ones? How can we move beyond a certain fear of technology to policies where we put technology truly at the service of people? So.
Well, thank you, Maciej. Thank you for that question. And let me also thank Ernest Sein for disagreeing with me. That was the first panelist I had heard take a different view from another. So maybe we can have a bit of a debate now. And with apologies and all due respect, I remain an optimist, even hearing about what you said. And I fundamentally disagree that we're lacking vision here. I actually think, to be honest, we have the opposite problem. I think we have a little too much vision and maybe not enough interoperability. And that's what I'd like to speak about, if you don't mind. Look, I think the world has changed profoundly. Let's stop and think about that for a moment. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic. Living through the digital revolution is a revolution. It touches on everything. It touches the way we live, the way we work, the way we communicate, whether our structures need to be hierarchical, whether people have a voice in faraway places, how we access knowledge. It is as big a deal as the Industrial Revolution the internal combustion engine, electric, as anything that has ever come along. And that poses a challenge for government. And the pose is twofold. There are, first of all, risks. And we hear a lot about that. We read about how technology is being used to hack democracy. And by the way, not a day goes by when I don't just read about it, but when I read about 20 articles about that. And what I'm missing a little bit is the other side of the equation here, because actually technology has facilitated democracy. Look at this conference. Look at all the amazing things happening. Look at what Asha was talking about a second ago. It's a tremendous opportunity. My friend Don Tapscott put it very well. The old paradigm was you vote, we govern. My friend Clay Shirky, whom I also know, put the new paradigm very well. Here comes everybody. And this, to me, is what human-centric digital government is about. It's not simply about what's clearly not just implied, but stated that our technology will be there to serve humans, but it's actually about a step further. It's about putting humans at the center of all that we do. And we have a name for that. It's called co-creation. It's called service design. We have several names, but we were talking about it earlier today. To me, the vision and the power of human-centric digital government is governments are here to serve the people. We can now listen to them. We can hear from them. We can understand what they need. We can understand what we're giving them is what they want. We can iterate. We can iterate again. To me, the great challenge here is delivery. Mike Bracken, a fellow at the Lisbon Council, puts it very well. The strategy is delivery. What we need to do today is deliver on all of those things that we were talking about today. I enjoy the conversation, but at the end of the day, it's about making it work. And if you don't mind, since I probably won't get the floor again, I'm going to mention 3 things I heard in the discussion today that I thought were particularly important. One, David Osimo in his session several hours ago talked about the importance of monitoring. Let's have all of these things, but for God's sakes, let's go back and look. Are they working? Is anyone using them? This strikes me as crucial going forward to get success in this area. Secondly, Max Strothman spoke about standards. The way he put it was if you're only interoperable with yourself, then you have interoperability of one. We have a very, very strong incentive to sit together, to reason together, and to find a common standard at the European level that we can all unite behind. Let the COVID pass be a beautiful example of that. Because at the end of the day, if we have 27 initiatives, we have nothing. We need one. Now, that doesn't mean an undemocratic one. We have a seat at the table and we need to work it out together, but we need to come together around one set of standards that allow us to deliver digital government in the right way. And I guess finally, my third point would be, we have the technology to do that now. Let's use it. The issue isn't the technology, it's the human structures we build around it. And if we use those, if we revise those human structures, if we reform them in a way that we can deliver digital government, then we will have human-centric digital service. It will be a new kind of democracy. It will bring order back to the citizen-state relationship. We can put trust back into it. And I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's what I heard in the discussion today. I'm less worried that we don't know what human-centric digital government is. I'm maybe still a bit worried that we won't deliver it. But I think the definition is absolutely broad enough. And now the strategy is delivery.
Thank you very much. Thank you. In terms of getting the stage again, looking at the timing, you will probably get one more round, short one, just for a final short key point at the end.
Well, I've said everything I have to say now, so
going to Natalia and actually biting into the word. So interoperability, okay, can be a complicated word to pronounce for some. And it's also complicated to achieve, as we're debating for the whole day, yeah? But comes up all the time when we speak with or about the digital transformation. So which are your plans on making interoperability a cross-cutting enabler for the digital government?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I with all the discussion, I really had all the bases, and I will also be optimist. And I would like to say that, in fact, it is good to be disappointed with a digital strategy, because the digital strategy or digital vision should not be the one that is driving us. There has to be the citizens' willingness that are driving us. So taking it from there on interoperability. Well, there I may have a bit of bad news, because I'm sure we will never achieve it completely. Sorry, Paul, but this is a constant process. But this is, as you correctly said, Max said, interoperability cannot be achieved by one party only. So this requires cooperation. We have heard about this, cooperation, co-creation. And this interoperability, this doing together, is not just for the sake of doing it. It is really essential. And why it is essential? Because you said it, IT, technology, digital is not the target, it's just the means for that. Right. And that is where we are looking a lot now from interoperability perspective on how this interoperability, these digital aspects can be integral part of the policy development. So we really need to look whenever we are looking at new policies, and this can be in any of the areas that the public administrations are working on, to make sure that we are not building new barriers, that we are digital ready with the policy. So I'm not talking about the digital strategy as such, but about any policy that is to be digital ready. Data has to be embedded in all what we are doing. And for that, I would like to say, and I like the thing of being acting and not only talking, well, it is also nice. We would like to set up a structural cooperation between the member states throughout Europe, extending it also a bit beyond Europe, as Western Balkans are part of the discussion too, to really build on these putting together. We have talked about, I would like to say, what I like really is to not only share, but reuse and improve. And this is what we are proposing. Having this structural cooperation, we will be ready, we will be more powerful to impact the policy making and making sure that digital is embedded properly in it, with having all what we have been discussing and the human part in the center, building common catalogs, solutions, tools that can be coming from, I'm not talking about only the things that we do from a European Commission or EU-funded systems, but really putting together all the good practices, all the solutions, so that we can really go and reuse and move faster to the next steps. Also involving the private sector, all what is related to GovTech, that will help to move to a more innovative aspects. And there we have to be really inclusive, as this has also been discussed. And I would like to mention also something which is not easy to do for public administrations. And the more open we are, the less we want to learn from errors. But for that, we need to fail. We need to recognize that we have failed in some of the projects. We learn from that and we move to the next steps. And this is much easier to do if we do it together. So this is why we are really supporting on these transformation journeys. And I would like just to finish or to conclude saying that we have to do that together. There has been a lot of co-creation, but I would like to say it's not only at the beginning that we have to do it together. We have to also reuse, improve what the others have done and learn from the others. And that's all from my side for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you very much. Going back to Nick. So I have a double question for you. So Sigma is working in the accession and neighborhood countries, and then also, as we mentioned, there was a session that you hosted targeting Western Balkans. Do you see the same trends and progress in the countries you're working with? And then, as we know, the pandemic has been a catalyst for public services rapidly going digital. Also, your view on that.
Thanks, Matej. I try to be as short and precise as possible, given the late time and hour. But also because we, as Sigma, we just have concluded like a huge assessment of the Western Balkans. So there's like really a pile of not only documents, but thousands of pages and indicators, materials. So just allow me to give you some snapshots on these. And on your question, do we see like the same trends? Absolutely, absolutely. That digital really has been understood by the public administrations in all the countries. So that's the good news. But also that progress is uneven. Progress is uneven in the sense that a lot of attention has been going into digital for businesses. So setting up businesses really efficient, super efficient, low thresholds and administrative burden, important, don't get me wrong, super important. While on the other hand, when we look at services to citizens, and we have some nice indicators and comparative tables and graphs from all the different countries in renewing your ID cards, registering cars, moving houses, whatever, there, the level of digital, including also digital payment and everything, what you want, it's still, well, not up to the same level. And let me put it like this. So definitely digital is picking up, but still uneven. And that is an issue in itself. While on the other hand, we have seen and we see some very, very strong cases. Also today, just before this session, we had a very interesting panel with Albania, for example, where if you see from 2013, where they had like, don't quote me on the numbers, like 14 services online, and now they have like over 1,200 services online in like, what is it, 7, 8, 9 years? Also on a high digital level. So not only just having the PDFs online, that was rightly quoted before, no, really in an interactive, interactive manner. So really great. Second example, also from this time from Serbia, where they move into really this, taking it from the live events and move into seamless services. And then I think I come to Ernest's point before, really in this automation kind of way, that many things happen back office, and what happens front office, well, the citizens, they don't see this. So a lot of data events are triggered behind the walls, and the flow happens behind the scene within public administrations, plural. And this is what citizens want to see, want to experience at the end of the day. So great things happen. Are the Western Balkans there yet? No, far from. And so I like to be optimistic, and we have to be, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And this work is done to be done on the level that now many interoperability frameworks are in place. Registries are being digitized. Administrative and legal frameworks are in place. All good. That's the basics. And that's in place. But now they have to take the next step really into translating this. So, I mean, I could continue until to Sunday evening talking on this. On your second part of the question, Matej, and this, I think with this I would broaden up the role of the pandemic in all of this. Has the pandemic been an accelerator? Yes, for good and bad. First of all, I think it has, in many countries, well, I think it has been more exposed than accelerated. I think it has confronted many countries, not even Western Balkans, I think all over the world, in confronting countries where they have not sufficiently invested and worked on digital. And now it suddenly popped up and became very evident and clear. And so it even more, to my extent, it even more confronted organizations, governments, public administrations with where they still need to work on, than that it accelerated. And where it has accelerated, and that is my last point, where it has accelerated, I'm not sure it always accelerated in the good direction. Meaning, many services have been put online, digital, in a haste. Because we have to go digital, we have to go online. So traditional services suddenly have been turned into putting them online, without rethinking processes, without rethinking the doing. And I'm not sure, well, actually, I'm quite sure, that when we would look at all of these things now, not much has really improved in terms of service delivery. So it's not because we put a bad service online that suddenly it becomes a good service. It's not because we put a bad process online that suddenly it becomes a good process. And so a lot of rethinking, redoing, and also this user-centric aspect in the rethinking, this is still where a lot of work needs to be done. I hope I wasn't too long, but as I said, plenty of things to discuss. I'm happy to continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Going all the way back to Ernest, I've had a prepared question regarding the challenges, risks, and opportunities for an average European ICT companies, but I would rather take the one that we got in the Q&A. It's again with the risk that we can talk about it until the Sunday evening, as Nick said, because it's this one, should we automate all this, but maybe just your as short view as possible on this. So let me read it for everybody. I agree, it's an anonymous attendee. I agree that we need to strive for automation, sure, but where's the line? If we strive for continuous automation only, what is the future of humans? I believe that we need to take care of the balance between the human control and automation in order to prevent becoming totally dependent on machines, computers, robots, AI. So that's a rich topic. Just your view on that in a short time span.
When the industry revolution came, everybody was so scared. Oh my God, the machines will take over our jobs. Right. Oh my gosh, what will happen? So the people started to demolish the machines. But what actually happened is that the unemployment rate went dramatically down. So we should cash in that. We should cash in that automation is improving the quality of life. Let's learn from our past. We have a great, brilliant past. I mean, everybody who is saying right now that we haven't improved the quality of life clearly doesn't understand the history. Even 200, 300 years ago, we were working so much more. Our rights were so limited. And I mean, the industrial revolution, of course, it went wrong. Of course, it had tremendous impact on the environment, and we are just learning that. But in terms of quality of life, come on, it really improved. So, of course, there are some limits. There should be some, and there is a lot of academical discussion about it. But I believe we should strive and really strive for automation as much as possible. You have different visionaries and you have different scientific sci-fi writers, even Stanislaw Lem and even before him. They ventured further as what will happen with the human race with total automation, etc., etc. But I believe this is millennia away. What is right now is quite classical services which are migrating to digital world, but we are migrating them wrongly. Why? Because we are asking the wrong questions. We are asking ourselves, how can we do this digitally? Okay, so now for the last 2-3 decades, we were doing this in a paper form like this. How can we do this digitally? Instead, we should be asking ourselves, why do we need that at all? I mean, as a government, any government, we have a lot of backdoor information. We have a lot of information already on that process. What is keeping us from totally automating that process? And of course, there are some things which are clearly, and we should focus on them. So in terms of short or even mid-term vision, let's face it, I don't believe it's a very important measurement or very important discussion. What is the level of automation? Because right now, I don't believe that at least in our lifetimes, we will still have to work. We will still have to go in the morning or work remotely, etc., etc. But our quality of life is important. And that's what we are facing right now. And that's where we should be focusing much more in the future. I hope I answered your question. That was my honest.
You did, Ernest. All the while thinking that maybe we are preaching to the converted already, because we wouldn't be in this conference if we wouldn't think so. But it needs to be, addressed and iterated, because there are people who think differently. Having said that, looking at the time, now if you can promise me like a really short round with a final short key point. Now you saying it to the audience, we still have many of them with us. What would you like them to think about and act upon? So going with Bastian first.
Matej, thank you very much for these final words. I must agree with a lot what it was said, but we really must take into consideration our public, our customers, if I say so. The basis is the trust. So if we don't have the trust of our people, then we have problems with steps. A lot of what has been said today about co-creation and user involvement in service design, policy, and legislation. This is why this practice needs to be systematically developed across the public sector. In this way, we will gradually make organization culture more user-friendly and adaptable to our needs. Of course, like I said, this requires strong and stable support from the leadership, effective coordination and training, both for the civilian servants and for end users. So what I think we need is resources and time for workshops with users and other stakeholders, support and advice to institutions, cooperation with a wide range of stakeholders, continuous encouragement and regular sharing of good practices. This is one good example today. If we manage to do all this, I think we will all win. So this is from my side.
Thank you very much. Continuing, Asya, short tip to think and act
Thank
upon.
you. Unlike Paul, I don't have any doubts that both politicians and administrations will deliver digital services and also digital democracy. Just because of one single reason. Citizens are not okay with practicing democracy every 4 or 5 years by voting anymore. That's not the case. This would never be the case anymore. They need to be heard in between elections. So the politicians need to deliver those channels and also in a quality way. The only question for me is when would this take place and how many going forward back there would be? Because each and every time when something is done not in a proper way, then there is a price to be paid. Populist movements being one of the ultimate examples. So this is why I would like to reinforce once again the necessity of a learning process, of a learning curve, based on assessment frameworks and very clear idea of how do we assess or evaluate a digital experiment or service as useful and proper at the end, so that we can learn from experience and we can improve. And again, I think there is a need to do that together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asya. Moving on, Paul, short
Yes.
to think and
Yeah,
act.
thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to come back on 2 points that previous speakers made. And first of all, I want to come back on something you said, Nick, about not much is improved in terms of services, that too many just services have been thrown online and they were still bad services. My answer to that is it depends on where you look. We had a stunning presentation today from the government of Estonia about not only what they've done there, but what's still ahead. And that's very real. If you haven't been to Estonia lately, I invite you to go because it's really an amazing thing that they've accomplished there. You don't have to go there. You can come here to Belgium. The Belgian government doesn't get nearly enough credit for it, but they have delivered a really, really smooth, seamless, easy to use digital government service. And I frankly don't know how I personally would have survived the pandemic had the services not been so world-class in this country. So we have people who are walking the walk and talking the talk out there. It's not all a bad story. And for the record, Tony Blair said it best. We are best when we are boldest. It's the governments that reached the furthest that were able to deliver the most to their citizens. I want to come back on what Natalia said, because I love this, Natalia. We recognize that we have failed in some areas and we are ready to move on to the next step. That attitude is crucial, because in the old days, policy was something you wrote in stone, quite literally, when Moses came down from the mountain. Now it's something that we can revise. We can put it out there and we can iterate. We can get feedback and we can keep going until we get it better. This is absolutely crucial going forward. It's one of the things that technology allows us to do. Asya, that idea was in what you were saying just now too. And I guess maybe my final thought to the panelists and to the audience, quote, Mahatma Gandhi said it best, be the change you want to see. Quite a few people doing that today, and it's been a real pleasure and an honor. And thanks to you and to the Slovenian government.
Thank you very much, Paul. Natalia.
Yeah, I will take it from there, and I would say that the public sector transformation cannot be done with one only line. So not only from the public sector point of view, we have to do it like tango is always with two. We really need to involve the citizens, and this is what we have been talking the whole day. I would like to say also on the interoperability, just because we are building this stronger cooperation, and I invite you all to contribute to it, because I think this is also one of the bases to make all the automation, the transformation a reality and make it happen. Thank you, and thank you very much. It was really a bit short, but really interesting discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalia. Nick.
Thanks again, Matej. And thanks, Paul, for reminding me, but all of us, with these world-class examples. I mean, the last thing that I want to do is to first be negative, and also to not recognize that really good things have happened and are happening. Not across the board. I think that was the kind of message I want to pass. Yeah. And with Estonia, for sure, I think you pointed world-class. Second, well, as being Belgian and proud Belgian, I can only underline what you have said about our beautiful country, but also as a proud European. And this was the kind of short message that I want to pass as well, my final takeaways. And this would be to come with the motto, with the baseline, with the slogan of the European Union, in varietate concordia, united in diversity, right? And I think this is, for me, this is really important, to be united in diversity, but in this, not to strive for the lowest common denominator. No, what we should try to aim for, and I think this is, I mean, good that you mentioned, Paul, these world-class examples, that we should try to aim, and not aim, but also push each other and be critical for ourselves and each other in this kind of united in diversity. Not just to accept everything that, it's yours, so okay, you just do. No, we just need to push each other. We just need to learn from each other, learn from mistakes, as Natalia said. So therefore, these kind of events, but others and tools and common standards, and you name it, are so super important. And I think this is the only way how we can make progress as the most prosperous region in the world. And we need to keep those standards by working on this together. Thanks for this.
Thank you very much, Nick. So Ernest, finally, your short conclusion. As we can see, the minister was already popping in. Mario Campolarga is waiting there. So let us conclude now.
I have just two short takeaways. The first is about, please don't talk about digital. People really don't care about digital. What we care is better quality of life, and envision automation, and let's leave it together, that automation, because nobody really gives it if it's a PDF or paper. And the second, just to scare Paul, he drew a really good point about how to deliver. I'm still in German Parliament as a consultant, and we prepared a new law last year that every organization needs a cybersecurity expert. And I came to the floor and I asked the chairman at that time, yeah, you and which army? Do you even realize that right now we are short in Germany of 40,000 cybersecurity experts? Now it just went to 500,000. Where are you going to get those? So it's the same shortage of digital competences across, not Europe, but across the whole world. So the second takeaway is, please, let's start building the capabilities. We don't have them. We can be nice to each other, and we can write long papers to each other and long essays and elaboration. But if nobody delivers it, it's nonsense. We have to start really building the capacity. We are seriously lacking behind. And that's my second takeaway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the panelists, so Boštjan, Asja, Paul, Natalia, Nick, and Ernest, for this discussion, for your questions, comments, and these concluding lines. So thank you very much.